The Do This podcast is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network. Join hosts Bob Stewart and Chad Hyams as they chat with real estate expert Nikki Miller about breaking through business plateaus with innovative strategies. Learn how to use technology and effective communication to increase efficiency and scale your business. This episode dives into actionable tactics for leveraging databases to drive growth, offering listeners practical tips to amplify their real estate success. We hope you enjoy this episode of the Do This podcast, presented by Brivity.
Chad Hyams, Nikki Miller.
What's up, guys?
Our guest on Do This. So, Nikki, if you've ever listened to us before, which I doubt you have, I don't know why you would, but
I find myself listening to you all the time.
Well, yeah. Sorry about that. Do us a favor. So Chad and I, we get a bio about you. It's a really impressive bio. It's got lots of amazing things and accomplishments on it. But can you introduce yourself to our audience just in the way that Nikki sees fit?
Yeah, I'm super amazing and important. Take my word for it. My real estate background is that I sort of grew up in this business. Been doing this since I was really young. Found what I loved early, which I feel really lucky to do so. And what I'm probably most well known for is a few years ago, I founded and built a platform that was not dissimilar to Place, but exclusively and specifically designed for individual real estate agents. So we operated what I would call a do-it-for-you model, wherein we operated their business on their behalf. So if you looked up as an individual agent and said, I don't want to take on the overhead and stress of building it myself. I also don't want to stay where I am. And I also don't want to go and join a team and give up my brand in doing so. If I don't want to do any of those things, but I still want to grow, I don't really have any options. And so I basically built something for that person. Founded that in January of 2021. In a very short period of time, we expanded and grew to hundreds of locations and agents that we were supporting. In March of 2024, I sold that business to Ojo. If you don't know who they are, they're the largest privately held real estate search engine in the country. And then I finished my tenure there in transitioning the business over. That business still exists today, still supporting agents today. And I finished my tenure in August of last year. And our friend Ben called me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, Ben, I'm actually going to go to Europe for a couple of months, and I'm going to take some time off. And I don't want to talk about work. I'm not doing anything. That's what I'm doing right now. And he said, "Cool, call me in a week when you get bored." And I was like, "Shut up, Ben. You don't know what you're talking about." And so I made it all of 3 weeks before I called him, and then very quickly after joined Place.
Okay, awesome. Bob, I get question one because it's got nothing to do with anything. Where in Europe? Give us some. That's the part I care about on this conversation, Nikki.
I was in London. I was in Richmond in the UK.
Okay. And is that where you spent most of the time? You based yourself out of London?
Yeah, we based ourselves out of London. I've got 2 young kids that came too, and we traveled all over Scotland and Paris and all through France and Spain and lots of other places too, but based out of London.
So what's the city that everybody needs to now put on their list of got to go see? Nikki Miller told me to.
It depends. It depends on like what your thing is. I'm an outdoor person. I always say, like, if I won the lottery, I wouldn't tell anybody, but there would be signs, and it would be that I would disappear into the forest and never come back. And so we were by what is one of the largest gardens. Garden, the way you think of it is like a bad way to put it, but that is what it's called, by Kew Gardens. And I spent a lot of time there. They've got species of plants that only exist there now, like they are extinct, and they've preserved them there. And it's thousands, tens of thousands of acres. And it's just like the most beautiful, magical place I've ever been to. So if you ever go to London, go to Richmond and go to Kew Gardens.
Well, there you go. Do this, folks. Put Kew Gardens on your list. All right, Bob. Which way? I mean, Nikki's a wealth of value and information. And I got to tell you, we had a little moment before the call started that I completely am embarrassed by. Yet, Nikki, I have been a fan from afar for a long time, following you on the social media and all the stuff you put out there and listening to the stuff that you've been sharing for years. Bob, we could go so many directions. Where do you want to take this call since you get to be the guy in the hot seat?
So Nikki, I want to talk because I study this a lot on the team side. And this is very common in real estate. It happens with teams, and it happens with agents, is they get their business going, they get it to somewhere. For an individual agent, maybe it's 15 deals a year. And this year they do it, and next year they do 16, and the year after they do 14, and they kind of plateau. For a team, maybe it's 60 or whatever it is, right? We plateau, and it's the same cycle year over year over year. How do we get out of that? Like, as an agent in this business who's kind of hit that ceiling, how do I break through that ceiling? How do I have a different business this year than last year?
I think when we think about growth in real estate, there's a common misconception as it pertains to how to grow. And you guys have been in Ben's world for a really long time, so you'll probably think differently. But if you could take yourself out of that world for a minute, what's like the most common coaching on how to grow your business in real estate? Give it to me in one sentence or less.
Talk to more people.
Talk to more people. That's literally it. Yeah, like you have to do more, lead generate more. Sure. And so the challenge is that you have people who are hitting their ceiling. And by the way, we all have like our own natural entrepreneurial ceiling, and it's in a different place. So you might be at 10, another person might be at 20. It doesn't really matter where you hit yours. And in order to grow more, we start thinking about addition. And so what actually happens is usually when you've hit that ceiling, you're hitting a level of burnout, right? You're starting to hit a place where you cannot fathom the idea of doing more, which says to me that you're still in a growth mindset, not in a scale mindset, because you are still associating your growth with you doing more. It's addition, not multiplication. And so the challenge that most people have as it pertains to growth, Bob, is that they think, okay, in order for me to grow, I have to do more. I'm going to have to call more people. I'm going to have to lead generate more. I'm going to have to hire more agents, like whatever growth looks like for you at this phase. Which whenever somebody comes to me and is in that place, it says to me that, like I said, you're still in that growth mindset, not in a scale mindset. And it's not the volume of work, it's the quality of work and your alignment in the work that you're doing. And so if somebody wanted to grow their business this year, I would say, okay, well, what are you doing that actually moves the needle? And how do we turn up the volume on that? And how do we help you to talk to more people? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you are having to do all of the talking. Does that make sense, Bob? So like, I know we're going to probably talk about some database things today, and that's the best way to do this. But that's the first place that I start when I'm working with any agent. Like they get on thinking I'm going to say, beat your head against the wall and do more and go harder and hustle more. And I fundamentally don't believe in that. Like I want to make the most amount of money and do the least amount of work possible, right? That is my goal for myself every year. I want to work less hours than I did last year and make more than I did last year. And that's how I frame everything that I do. It's a scale mindset as opposed to a growth addition mindset. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when you started saying the answer, one of the first things you said is they think, what do I need to add? Addition, more work, more. So if that's not necessarily the right way to look at it, and I should be thinking about scale, what should I be subtracting? Like you've worked with hundreds, thousands of agents. What are agents doing that gets in the way that maybe I shouldn't be, or I should be subtracting?
I mean, it's all the stuff that doesn't move the needle, right? And like the analogy I give here is, you guys aren't like this, but I'm like this. And when I was in college, I would wait the night before a paper was due to write that 12-page paper, right? Like I won't tell on you guys; you can tell on yourselves if you want. Okay. And by the way, like, even when you knew, you're like, okay, I've made peace with the fact that I'm going to be up all night writing this thing that I knew that I had like 3 months of notice that I needed to write. So before I ever sit down to write, I'm going to like make myself a cup of coffee. I'm going to make sure my desk is clean. I'm going to do all these things that don't actually have anything to do with writing the paper. And we do that a lot in real estate. And we will call it work and we will fool ourselves into thinking that we are moving something forward when all we're doing is cleaning the desk. And so what I mean by that is like, it could be Well, before I lead generate, I'm going to do the social media post. And by the way, I'm like not saying your social media isn't important. I'm a huge advocate of it, but it's probably not as important as doing your lead generation. Before I do my lead generation, I'm going to open up my email and see if there are any fires that I have to put out. I assure you that those fires will be there after you lead generate, like if it's actually real. And so it's just, again, it's about what are we doing that actually moves the needle. It's not about how much we're doing. And I wouldn't even say that some of this is about subtraction, because I tell people often, especially as they're getting ready to think about leverage, most of this stuff you still have to do, but you don't have to be the one to do it. So my first question to myself, whenever I'm looking at my life, my business, is what of this do I actually have to do, or do I actually want to do? And if the answer is these things don't fall in either of those categories, those are the first things I'm going to pass off. But what's interesting, Bob, is that in real estate, we always try to pass off the thing that we should never pass off. Like one of the first pieces of leverage I see a lot of agents try to get is like an ISA. And I always say that is absolutely the wrong place to start. Until you have absolutely maximized what you are doing in your database, all you're doing is passing off the most valuable currency in your business. You are literally passing off your relationships to somebody else. And then it's a little comical to me when people will like act surprised when somebody walks out with a bunch of relationships and takes part of their database with them. Like, well, what did you expect? They built the relationship, not you. And this is and forever will be a relationship business. So you got to get clear on what it is that needs to be done, just doesn't need to be done by you. And then you have to get clear on what is it that I do that actually moves the needle in this business. And I do actually think that's different for everybody. And then what do I not need to do anymore at all? Like, what would nobody notice if I just didn't do it at all?
Okay. So I could just sit here and just listen. Yet I'm not going to, because David Wiggs will yell at me for just sitting there listening. He'll be like, hey, you're supposed to be there for a reason. And I love it. I'm sitting over here nodding my head along, because as soon as Bob said subtraction, I'm like, no, it's not about subtraction. Nikki had the right term. It's multiplication, right? It's
scale.
Bringing somebody else on, because 1 times 10 is 10, 2 times 10 is 20, right? Now, all of a sudden, by bringing that other person on, we're putting ourselves in a position to double. I just used the word someone else. You use the word leverage, and I'm going to bet that 95% of the people listening to this, as soon as they hear leverage, assume it's a person. Yeah. Doesn't have to be a person. Brivity, for example, could be that leverage, because it can do some of those things for us. Folks, this doesn't mean you got to go hire an assistant. This could mean you just need the right tool in your life. So let's look at CRM. Let's look at database. Obviously, we're here on behalf of Brivity. What are some of those things you would immediately have your database or your CRM system helping you do with your sphere and your database to earn the business without giving away the power of your business?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty that we have now in the world of real estate is especially inside of something like Brivity, you have the functionality to speak to people in a way that you would speak to people at scale, right? And so what I mean by that is, in a database, what most people get wrong is that they think their database is a place for them to just house information. And that's not what a database is. A database should be used to communicate in a meaningful way with the information that you have. And so when I'm looking, if I'm going to an agent and they want to grow their business, the first place I'm going to start is, how do I use the information that you have to communicate in a more meaningful way? And by the way, this isn't rocket science. Like, this doesn't have to be overtly complicated. It can be very simplistic and can be very consistent, because most agents, again, are going to make the association that if I want to double my business, I have to talk to double the people. But back to your point, Chad, that doesn't mean that you have to be the one to do it. You could talk to the same amount of people and then just get technology working for you that's checking in with people on your behalf, that's talking to people on your behalf. And then I bet you somebody on this call right now is already going down the rabbit hole of like, oh, it won't sound like me. Well, you're not talking to them anyway, so it doesn't matter. They don't even know what you sound like because you don't call them. So what are you care, right? So you have to figure out a way that feels like your voice, sounds like your voice, but don't start with it won't sound like me. You're not calling them anyway. If you have over 100 people in your database, I can tell you right now that you are falling behind in your follow-up. It is what it is. And it's too many people for you to keep up with. So you could double your business by just setting some auto plans that communicate with people in a systematic way based off the information that you have.
Can I?
I love that.
There. By the way, yeah, like I'm getting fired up over here. I'm like, yeah, what she said. But I maybe want to push back a little bit because we in our world at least. For most agents, I would say what you just said was true. You got more than 100 people, you're probably not following up with them. That being said, we got plenty of people around here that are capable of following up with larger groups. Because if you think about 100 people, that would be in a month. If I was just going to work Monday through Friday and I was going to take a couple of Fridays off, I got 20 days. That's 5 people a day. Like every single person in here could reach out and find the time to talk to 5 people a day. But we got people that are making 40 or 50 calls a day because they've created leverage in their world. They bunker down in that time they've dedicated to working that database. And that person who's really figured this out can handle more. I think the average agent that you're talking about that doesn't use technology as leverage, doesn't prioritize their day, constantly goes looking for fires instead of doing their prospect, that person will have a hard time following up with any more than 100. Okay, I got my database. It could be Brivity. It could be something else. What would be one or two of the levers in there? You said, I've got this, I've got things I know. I'd like to communicate them at scale. Is it a newsletter? Is it a drip auto plan? Is it like, what is the thing?
Does it matter what it is?
I do think it does. It doesn't matter what it is if you're not doing anything. Yes. By the way, like something is better than anything. Yeah. But I'll go to Bob. You make a great point, and I agree with you. So, like that's when we start getting into a scale conversation. Once you've mastered the basics of a database, then you start and you actually start behaving appropriately in a database. Yes, you can do more. Like somebody like that has created leverage in their world. Clearly, you wouldn't have grown a database of that size and be on that type of calling campaign if you hadn't.
Yeah.
So I'll talk directly to that person, like somebody who's a little bit more advanced in the database. I've got a rhythm. And by the way, for context, the business that I built and sold before, again, it was a do it for you model. And part of what we did for them was we ran their database in all different databases. So we had over 50 different databases that we knew how to use. And guess who wrote every single line of copyright and text that went out to that database? Me. Every single line. Everything that went out. So I know exactly what converts. I know exactly how many touches it takes. I know exactly like what the cadence is and when it starts working, depending upon who you're talking to.
So drop it on us.
Wait. What are we waiting for? Before you drop it on us, I just want to clarify what everybody should be hearing in there, right? That means it always sounded like Nikki. It didn't sound like Bob using it. It didn't sound like Chad using it. Because if Nikki wrote it, she didn't write it exclusive for me. She didn't write it exclusive for Bob. She wrote it once because she knows what she's doing and then used it for everybody on the follow-ups. Understand, it doesn't sound like you is better than it doesn't sound like anything because you're not sending it.
Yeah. And by the way, like I love that you're so in your own world that you think that people are going to know that you use 2 exclamation points instead of 1.
Yeah, you're not that important, right?
Like they won't. They don't. And unless it's like your bestie or your brother or your spouse, like they aren't going to realize it. But so I wanted to give everybody a little setup to help you understand, like I've done this at scale. We did this for hundreds of agents in all different markets with all different sizes databases, from 100 people in the database to 50,000 people in the, actually one of our people had like 100,000 people in their database. So what I'm about to give you is very generalized and it works. And you could do this inside of Brivity. So the first thing that we have to figure out is there's only a couple buckets about how we know somebody. And I see one of the mistakes I actually see people make, Bob, is that like, I think people tend to over-label a database, if that makes sense. Like, I think people tend to go a little deep on the labels.
98 tags, and we got 1,000.
Exactly. Because here's the deal. If it's, in my world at least, the way I think about a database, If it's met in any capacity, by the way, it doesn't really matter where I met you. It doesn't matter if we met at the supermarket or met at a networking event. I'm going to pretend like we know each other, right? I want you to feel like we know each other. So, and so I'm not going to communicate with you necessarily any differently than somebody I might put in my like sphere of influence bucket, right? And so I put everybody in my met category. And then you might have an unmet category. And that might be like, I got this lead in from a lead service that I subscribe to, or it's somebody that was referred to me that I was never able to connect with, like whatever that looks like. Unmet, haven't talked to you before. And then I've got past clients in a bucket. And sometimes you can convince me that you do a specific type of lead generation, like open houses, or I built my own business door knocking, and that might deserve a specific type of tag. Like I can be convinced there. But that's kind of it. Like outside of that, we put vendors in a different bucket, i.e. like you're my, home inspector or referral agent or whoever you are. But you're over here. Everybody else goes into those couple categories. And I have done the research because I have run successfully hundreds of agents' databases, and I know what converts and how often you have to convert to get a conversion out of a database. And on average, we were about 1% to 3% conversion in the databases that we worked. And to give everybody perspective, most of them were not being communicated with because I worked with individual agents who were at like max capacity, right? So we ranged above and below that, but like on average, 1% to 3%. And so what I knew is that I needed to talk to everybody in that database who was didn't matter which category, so long as it wasn't a vendor or an agent referral. I need to talk to everybody in that database 38 times a year. 38 times a year. Write it down, Bob. That's the number. 38 times a year is the number you have to hit. And to
generate a 1% to 3% return on said database.
Exactly.
Did we find that if we took 38 and took it up to 60, did our range? Okay, so folks,
no difference.
That's what I figured the answer was going to be for everybody. 38 times is going to get you a 1% to 3% return. You want to predict your business for the next 12 months. How many you got? 1% to 3% of that. Touch them 38 times. Keep going, Nikki.
And now, like, by the way, somebody on this call is hyperventilating right now. Like, breathe through this with me. Let me show you how easy it is for you to get 38 touches. Well, I think monthly newsletters, when done well, if I see one recipe card come through, I will find you and fight you. Like, we don't do that. We send items of value. So I think I personally, again, wrote a newsletter we were in 38 states, you guys, 38. And I wrote a newsletter that worked in every one of those states. So every person who's got the talk track of like, that won't work in my market, like, stop it. It's not true. 38 states. I personally wrote our newsletter every single month. So you got 12 touches right there. You have 12 touches out of the way just with a monthly newsletter. And then if you got their information, you could put them, especially if you're on inside Brivity, you could put them on a home valuation report. And you could do that monthly. You could do that quarterly if you want. That's either an additional 6 or 4 or 12 touches just right there. People love that stuff. And then have fun with holidays. Again, don't you dare send a sugar cookie recipe card for their 4th of July bake-off. Like, just don't do it. You will be tempted. Just don't. We actually send items of value. So what we used to do is we would give our agents options on whatever resonated best with them. So you'll know this for you because you're the one running your database. So we would send them like something that was about the holiday, or we'd send them something that connects the holiday to real estate, because turns out everything in America is connected to real estate. And or we would send them something that was just like an extra touch, not even holiday driven, right? That's an extra like 6 to 8 touches right there. And then again, breathe through this. You are going to have to pick up the phone. Like, you're going to have to pick up the phone 4 times a year, and you are going to have to talk to these people. 4 times a year, you guys. That's all you have to do. 4 times a year, you personally have to reach out. And my script for this is always the same, because a lot of people are like, well, they don't pick up. And I'm like, that's okay. They just need to know that you're reaching out. And
you get credit for that. Like, you get credit for the missed call. You get credit for the voicemail. They don't need you right now. If they did, they would answer. And when they do, they will. Yeah.
Exactly. And I personally text because I don't like voicemails, but you could leave a voicemail and my script is the same every single time. By the way,
hold on real quick. Hold on. Before you give me the script. You call, they don't answer, then you shoot them a quick text.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, you don't just text them and forego trying to get them on the phone and build some relationship.
Don't do that.
Okay.
And by the way, every person who's in their head right now will be like, but what is the script? When I call them, it's like,
tune in next week. Oh,
yeah, wait. No. It's hey, how you doing? How are things going? What's new?
God. That's so hard. I'll never remember that.
Make a conversation. Or if you're, I hate talking on the phone personally, and I get real awkward. Like my palms get sweaty. Like I don't answer my phone for anybody, and unless it's a work call. And so I used to always have something I could invite them to. And by the way, it doesn't necessarily have to be an event that you're doing. It might be like hey, I went to the farmers market last week here locally. Have you been? It's so nice now. Like I just need something to talk about because I'm awkward. But if I don't get a hold of them, then it's the same script every single time, either voicemail or text. Hey, Chad, sorry I missed you. I'm just calling to check in. If you don't need anything or you're super busy, no need to call me back.
Folks, by the way, write it down.
I get more success with callbacks when I say, you don't need to call me back. Because I'm telling you what I'm calling about, and I'm giving you permission if you're really busy to not reach out. I give the analogy all the time. Like my insurance guy calls me once a month. I don't want to talk to him. I have nothing to talk to him about. But once a year, when I need something from him, I pick up the phone, and I'll never leave this insurance person because he's always there when I need him. And he's always checking in with me. Exactly. Same. And whenever somebody needs a referral, I'll pass him off. Right.
Same.
And yeah, exactly. But like, I don't need anything from him right now. So when he calls me this month, I'm not going to answer.
Yeah, I don't answer, and I'm not annoyed.
I'm not annoyed.
I just don't answer, and I move on. Yeah.
Exactly. And he uses the same script because I taught it to him. And he'll say, no need to call me back, not calling for anything specific.
And you believe that he's calling you to help.
He is, right? He is. And people know that about you too.
Folks, it doesn't have to be your voice in the messaging, right? As Nikki has said, she wrote multiple emails, multiple newsletters, multiple stuff that was default. It's better they hear from something from you than nothing because you need to make it perfect. You pick up the phone, you call. If you really have issues with it, folks, slide dial the first time, right? Go right into their voicemail. Don't leave them one. Then send the text. Yet you better get used to picking up the phone and calling them. And you want an easy step? Keyboard shortcut on your phone, just type AAA, right? And it can spell out that whole text Nikki just said, so you don't have to sit there and say, I got to type that whole thing every time. Keyboard shortcut, make your life easy. Nikki has made this so simple. You are the only reason it's not happening.
Chad, you're not allowed, like, I know that nobody was here for your senior moment before we started, but you're not allowed to start us with a senior moment and then finish us with like a Gen X hack or a Gen Z hack on your cell phone.
Get off my lawn, Bob Stewart. Get off my lawn.
Nikki Miller, with the 1 minute we have here, do me a favor, give the audience either reiterate something that you told them that's super duper important already, or give them a last thought to leave people with as they head back and they get ready to dive into their database. Because everybody here has one. Everybody that knows they're not doing what they should be doing is sitting there going,
feeling called out today.
Talking to me. Yeah. Give them a last thought with this last minute we have.
Whenever anyone asks me advice about virtually anything, but in this case, the database, my advice would be begin. Like, you will find the right path forward by implementing your imperfect plan. You don't need to find the perfect script. You don't need to organize it before you get started. You don't need to get ready or watch 5,000 videos on the internet, because all you're doing is delaying your results. Every moment that you wait delays the results that are waiting for you on the other side of the work that you are unwilling to do. So if there was one thing that you took from today, it would be begin. Just start, like right now. Today,
Perfect.
tomorrow, or better yet, right now.
Chad, what this thing, I think we call this do it.
Do it.
Like,
do this.
Go do this, right? Like, just start.
Listen, Bob, like in our industry, whenever I go to a real estate event, invariably somebody will like grab me in a hallway and they'll be like, hey, Nikki, nobody is around and I promise I won't tell. Will you just like give me the secret to real estate? Like, I won't tell anybody that you told me, but like give me the secret to doing what you've done. I'm like, okay, promise you won't tell. Are you ready? And we both lean in. They're like, yeah, give it to me. I'm like, have you considered like doing the work?
I like her. I like her.
That's it. Like that's
all right. Nikki Miller, you're amazing. I want to have you back in the future.
Yeah, next time Bob's away, Nikki, come back. We'll have a really good conversation.
Chad won't remember it afterwards.
Chad will immediately forget it.
All right. Hey, Nikki, have a great week. Chad, I'll see you next week, man. I'll see you
next week.
Thanks, Nikki. Bye, everybody.